1980 was a year caught between worlds. Disco was dying, punk was fading, and MTV was still a year away from changing everything. The radio stations played a wild mix that year, from new wave experiments to power ballads that somehow ended up next to synthesizer-driven pop. Some artists captured lightning in a bottle that year, burned bright for one glorious moment, then vanished before they could claim their throne. Let's bring them back, starting with number 1. Number 10, Steal Away by Robbie Dupree.
Come on and hold me.
Before anyone knew his name, Robbie Dupree was working construction in Brooklyn, playing small clubs at night, dreaming of a record deal that seemed impossible. Then Steal Away happened, a smooth yacht rock masterpiece that climbed all the way to number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the spring of 1980. The production was pure silk, with those layered keyboards and Dupree's voice sliding across the melody like a summer night breeze. Critics loved it, radio devoured it, and for about 6 months, Robbie Dupree was everywhere. But follow-up singles stalled, the album didn't produce another hit, and by 1981, the moment had passed. Dupree kept recording, kept performing, but he'd never taste that top 10 magic again. Steal Away remains a yacht rock treasure, proof that sometimes one perfect song is enough to earn immortality on classic rock radio. Number 9, Pop Muzik by M, the letter M, just one letter for artist Robin Scott.
Pop, pop, pop music, pop, pop, pop music.
A British musician who'd been kicking around the music scene for years without much success. Then he recorded pop music in his home studio, a hypnotic synthesizer-driven groove that sounded like nothing else on American radio in 1979 and early 1980. It hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in early 1980, selling over 2 million copies worldwide. The song was both a celebration and a satire of pop music culture, with that unforgettable hook repeating like a mantra you couldn't escape. Scott played nearly every instrument himself, creating layers of sound that predicted the electronic pop explosion coming in the 80s. But follow-up singles went nowhere in America, and M disappeared from the charts as quickly as he'd arrived. Robin Scott kept making music in Europe, but American audiences never embraced another M single. Pop Muzik endures as one of the most distinctive number 1 hits of the entire era, a song that still sounds futuristic more than 40 years later. Number 8, Cruisin by Smokey Robinson.
Baby, let's cruise away.
Now technically Smokey Robinson wasn't a one-hit wonder, he'd been a legend since the 1960s with the Miracles. But as a solo artist in 1980, Cruisin became his only top 5 hit, peaking at number 4 and introducing him to a whole new generation. Written by Smokey himself with Marv Tarplin, the song was smooth, sensual, and absolutely timeless, with that falsetto floating over the track like silk. It became a slow dance staple instantly, the kind of song that played at proms and weddings for years afterward. Despite the massive success, Smokey never matched Cruisin on the pop charts again as a solo artist. He remained a revered figure, a Motown icon, but the radio hits dried up after 1980. Still, Cruisin proved that Smokey Robinson could reinvent himself and capture hearts all over again. The song has been covered dozens of times, sampled countless more, and remains one of the most romantic tracks ever recorded. Number 7, Lost in Love by Air Supply. Okay, hear me out. Air Supply had other hits after 1980, but Lost in Love was their breakthrough, their signature, the song that defined everything they became. The Australian duo of Russell Hitchcock and Graham Russell had been struggling for years before Lost in Love climbed to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. Reflective, that soaring chorus, those orchestral sweeps, Russell's impossibly high vocals, it was power ballad perfection before power ballads became a cliche. Wistful dominated soft rock radio through the spring and summer of 1980, becoming the soundtrack for countless relationships. Yes, they'd score more hits, All Out of Love, The One That You Love, but none had quite the cultural impact of Lost in Love. By the mid-80s, the hits stopped coming, and Air Supply became a nostalgia act, playing casinos and state fairs. But Lost in Love remains eternal, a song that captured the hearts of millions and defined an entire subgenre of romantic rock. You either love Air Supply or you pretend you don't, but everyone knows the words to this one. If you're loving this trip through forgotten records, hit subscribe. We've got more stories from rock's golden age coming every week. Number 6, Rock With You by Michael Jackson.
Girl, close your eyes.
Wait, Michael Jackson a one-hit wonder? Absolutely not. But in 1980, before Thriller changed the universe, Rock With You stood alone as his defining solo moment, hitting number 1 and staying there for 4 weeks. Written by Rod Temperton, the same genius behind Thriller, the song was disco meeting soul meeting something entirely new. That shimmering production, Quincy Jones working magic behind the boards, Michael's voice gliding effortlessly through the melody. It was perfection. For context, Michael had been famous since childhood, but Rock With You was his first massive solo statement to adult audiences. By December of 1980, the song was unavoidable, playing at every party, every roller rink, every radio station from coast to coast. Of course, we know what happened next. Thriller exploded and Michael became the biggest star on earth. But Rock With You captured him at a unique moment between child star and global phenomenon, creating a song that still sounds flawless today. It deserves recognition as one of the greatest pop records ever made. Number 5, Romeo's Tune by Steve Forbert.
Meet me in the middle of the day, let me hear you say everything's okay.
Steve Forbert looked like the next Bob Dylan when he arrived in New York City in the mid-70s, armed with an acoustic guitar and a notebook full of songs. Critics adored him, calling him authentic, a real troubadour in an era of polished studio production. Romeo's Tune peaked at number 11 in early 1980, driven by that infectious acoustic riff and Forbert's earnest vocals. The song felt timeless even then, like something that could have been recorded in 1965 or 1985 and still worked perfectly. Radio loved it, the album Jackrabbit Slim sold well, and Steve Forbert seemed positioned for a long career of hits. But it never happened. Follow-up singles stalled, the label pushed him toward more commercial sounds, and the magic dissipated. By 1982, Forbert was dropped by his label, left to rebuild his career on the independent circuit. He never stopped making music, never stopped touring, and remains respected among folk rock circles. Romeo's Tune stands as proof that sometimes the purest songs are the ones that don't need sequels. Number 4, Cars by Gary Newman. When Cars hit American radio in early 1980, it sounded like a transmission from another planet. Gary Newman was already a star in Britain, but American audiences had never heard anything quite like this. Cold robotic synthesizers, deadpan vocals, and lyrics about isolation and machinery. The song peaked at number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming one of the first purely electronic hits to crack the American top 10. Nostalgic, you could hear the future in Cars. Everything from Depeche Mode to Nine Inch Nails owes something to Gary Newman's icy vision. But American radio wasn't ready for more. Follow-up singles flopped, the albums didn't sell, and Newman remained a one-hit wonder in the States. In Britain, he continued having hits and building a devoted cult following that persists today. American audiences just weren't ready for the full Gary Newman experience in 1980. Cars endures as one of the most influential songs of the decade, a blueprint for electronic rock that still sounds stunning. Without Cars, the 80s would have sounded completely different. Number 3, Pilot of the Airwaves by Charlie Dore.
Pilot of the airwaves.
Charlie Dore was a British singer-songwriter who'd spent years writing for others before finally recording her own material. Pilot of the Airwaves was a love letter to late-night radio DJs, those mysterious voices that kept lonely people company through the darkness. The song peaked at number 13 in the United States in early 1980, driven by that haunting melody and Dore's fragile, beautiful vocals. It captured something essential about radio before the corporate takeover: the intimacy, the connection between listener and DJ, the sense that someone out there understood. But Charlie Dore never charted again in America, despite releasing several more albums. The follow-ups were just as good, arguably better, but radio had moved on. Dore went on to become a successful film and television composer, so the story has a happy ending. But Pilot of the Airwaves remains a hidden gem, a song that should be remembered alongside the classics of that era. If you ever stayed up late listening to the radio, hoping to hear that one perfect song, you understand exactly what Charlie Dore was singing about. Number 2, Whip It by Devo. Devo was weird. Gloriously, intentionally, brilliantly weird. The Akron, Ohio band had been preaching their theory of de-evolution since the mid-70s, wearing flower pots on their heads and performing robotic, jerky movements on stage. Then Whip It happened, climbing all the way to number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100 in late 1980. The song was propulsive, catchy, strange, and impossible to ignore, with that bouncing synthesizer bass line and Mark Mothersbaugh's deadpan delivery. Nostalgic, MTV played the video constantly when the channel launched in 1981, the one with the bizarre imagery and the guy whipping a woman's clothes off. Devo had other minor hits, but nothing came close to the success of Whip It. It became their blessing and their curse. They wanted to be taken seriously as artists commenting on American culture, but instead became known for one quirky new wave hit. Still, Whip It opened doors for countless weird bands that followed, proving that strange could also be commercial. Devo kept making music for years, never compromising their vision, earning respect even if the hits dried up. Whip It remains an essential piece of early 80s culture, a song that still sounds like nothing else. Number 1, Funky Town by Lips Inc. This is it, the purest, most perfect one-hit wonder from 1980. Nostalgic, Funky Town hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in May of 1980 and stayed there for 4 glorious weeks. The song was created almost entirely by Steven Greenberg, a Minneapolis musician and producer who played nearly every instrument and built the track layer by layer in his home studio. Lead vocalist Cynthia Johnson delivered that iconic performance, her voice soaring over the synthesizers and disco beats with effortless power. The song was massive, number 1 in over 20 countries, selling millions of copies worldwide, dominating dance floors everywhere. It captured the last gasp of disco's golden age while pointing toward the electronic future, a bridge between two eras. Lips Inc. never charted again after Funky Town. Follow-up singles went nowhere, the magic couldn't be recreated, and the group disbanded by the mid-80s. Steven Greenberg tried repeatedly to recapture the formula, but lightning doesn't strike twice. Cynthia Johnson pursued a solo career with modest success, but nothing ever matched Funky Town. The song has been covered, sampled, and remixed hundreds of times, appearing in movies, commercials, and TV shows for decades. It remains one of the most recognizable songs of the entire decade, instantly transporting listeners back to 1980. Lips Inc. deserved to be legends, but instead they gave us one perfect moment, and sometimes that's enough. 1980 gave us these 10 incredible songs, 10 artists who captured magic for one shining moment before fading from the spotlight. Some deserved longer careers, some were victims of changing tastes, some just couldn't repeat the formula that worked once. But every one of these songs still sounds vital today. Proof that a great track never really dies, it just waits for someone to rediscover it. These artists may not have become legends in the traditional sense, but they created moments that defined a year, a sound, an emotion that still resonates decades later. The beauty of a one-hit wonder isn't the tragedy of what didn't happen next. It's the perfection of what did happen, frozen forever in 3 or 4 minutes of pure musical chemistry. These 10 songs from 1980 deserve another listen, another dance, another moment in the spotlight. They remind us that music history isn't just about the artists who dominated for decades. It's also about those who gave us one perfect gift before walking away. Which song hit you hardest today? Drop your memories in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the decades that changed music forever.